Hello and welcome to Cruise 5. My guest today is Vusi Thembekwayo. He's a South African entrepreneur, a global keynote speaker, and a venture capitalist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Squire. Thank you for having me.
Where exactly in South Africa do you come from?
I come from the heart of Gauteng in Joburg.
Gauteng?
So I come from I grew up in the East Rand part of Gauteng, which is like a small mining town.
Yes.
Called Watville, Benoni, and I now live in the northern, more affluent suburbs.
Aha, more affluent, because I guess you are more affluent now. But tell me about you growing up, because I don't think you grew up as a very affluent person and in an affluent neighborhood, I guess.
No. I come from, I definitely not middle class household. I mean, we were marginally below middle class. My father died when I was 13 years old.
Oh.
And my father was gunned down, and my mother raised 5 kids on a single mother's salary. So
gunned down?
Yeah, South Africa has a big problem with crime. It was a problem certainly when I was growing up. It continues to be a problem today. So it's not atypical, and I don't speak poorly about my country.
Yes, yeah.
This is something we really need to work on. It's not atypical for somebody to be murdered and it goes unsolved.
What exactly happened? Was he coming from work or something?
No, we were at a family gathering.
Yes.
It was my grandmother's birthday, and my father wanted to buy some extra items, so he walked from where we were to it's like a block with a series of shops in it.
Yes.
And there were some guys who saw him and they wanted to take his cell phone.
Just like that?
Yeah. So I've got to tell you, my father was a second-degree black belt in martial arts. So I did martial arts for 13 years because my dad introduced me to the sport. So they attacked him and tried to take his cell phone, and he fought back.
He fought back, yeah.
And I suppose when they realized they weren't going to get their way, 9 times they shot him.
Growing up with your mom, how was it like? How was life like?
Yeah, it was a tale of two. It was a tale of two cities, a tale of two lives. It was. I come from an incredible family. My mom is, to this day, my hero. Mom is my hero. Mom was a rock star. Mom made it work. I don't know how she did it. I mean, I really don't know how she put us through the schools she put us through. Made sure there was food on the table. I did extramural activities. So I was in martial arts. I was in provincial athletics. I played the violin to grade 6 level. I played the piano. I was in the choir. My mom made all of that happen. I don't know how she did it. I really don't know. So there was that, and we were pushed at home. So people, you don't understand my mentality now. It's just because I was raised. My mother pushed us ruthlessly to be the best we could, and she told us every day we were capable, and she told us every day that our situation was not our destiny. Every day my mom told us that. Your situation is not your destiny. You can get out of here. So there was that. And then there was also the very clear levels of lack, of poverty around us, right?
Was your mom working at this time?
My mom worked all throughout.
Yes.
She worked all throughout. She kept a steady job. She worked hard. She pulled in the hours. My mom worked all throughout. But so as I say, tale of two lives. There was the drive, the ambition, the desire to be more, the deep sense of family, a deep sense of identity. I think if there's one thing my mother gave us, was a very strong sense of identity, of personal worth and wealth. But also the environment you were in was not conducive to having those things. So she had to really give them to us through verbalizing it and through speech.
Growing up and doing school, I understand at some point things got a bit tough and you couldn't continue with your education.
Yeah, so I kind of went through my what we call in South Africa my primary schooling level to my year 7, grade 7.
Okay.
Then I went into my high school, which was grade 8 to grade 12, finished. And then, of course, you go to university.
Yes.
And I went to university, and we didn't have funds to pay for me to go to varsity. So the plan was go to varsity and get good marks and force the varsity to keep me. Except in South Africa, the university doesn't exercise positive discrimination. So whether you get good marks or not, the university can make a decision to keep you out of the university. So I finished my first year, and we hadn't paid my fees, and the university renounced my my education. And I
oh my goodness! Back. And they kicked you out of school.
Yeah.
That must have been hard.
Yeah, I mean, it was. But also remember, you know, you have to understand the background I come from, right?
Yes.
So I don't come from the background where we wallow in pity. That's not who we are.
So you were like, okay, this has happened. I have to move on. I've got to make something out of this.
Yeah, and my mother is not the kind of person who will let you wallow in pity. My mom is, take charge. Right? So, okay, so you can't go back for year 2. Let's make a plan. What's next? And, you know, I went and found a job, and I started working. And immediately when I started working, I took myself through school. Very first thing I did, with my very first paycheck, is I went and signed up at school, at a university, and I pursued my education part-time. So it's not, it's just how we were raised, right?
I want to hear more about that. But before we get to that, let's talk music, because I do believe, are you a musical man? You say you learned to play the violin.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, I have a very strange taste in music. I'll go from listening to Giuseppe Tartini's Fourth Movement, and then I'll listen to Jay-Z.
Well, that's what I call a musical man, because I mean, you have to appreciate music in every form that it comes.
Sure, because music is expression, right? And
yes.
If you really want to understand times and spaces, one of the best ways to really get into a certain time and a space and understand the context of that time and history as we have it is to understand the music that permeated at that time.
Any favorite type of music that?
Yeah, it depends. I love jazz. I mean, I suppose it's because I'm getting older now. So I'm appreciating jazz. I'm appreciating music that is about discovery.
Okay.
Right. Now, there's different types of music, but jazz is really about discovery. And the reason jazz is about discovery is because the artist plays what he plays. The interpretation of what the artist plays is for the consumer of that music. So you go through a process of discovery, of relation with the music, right? And it's yeah, I mean, I have several artists at the moment who are just consistently on my playlist. And then it depends. If I'm at the gym, I know I'll definitely switch to some hip hop or something fresher. Yeah.
Let's listen to the first song in Cruise 5 today. What is it going to be?
So,
should be hard to choose for someone who listens to all that kind of music.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to start with Gregory Porter.
Okay.
First, if I may just tell you a quick story.
Yes, please.
So, a friend of mine lives in London.
Okay.
And about 2 years ago, he invites me over to his apartment in London.
Yes.
And it was a Friday evening. I was there over in some business, and in fact I was over in school. And he invites me. He says, a Friday evening, you know,
just come over,
pop in for dinner.
A drink. Okay.
What's the dress code? He says, smart casual.
Okay.
You know, so I arrive and must have been a group of about 18 of us, and we're having dinner. And halfway through the dinner, so he serves a set of the appetizers, then serves starters. We're right in the middle of the main course. We're sitting in his beautiful apartment on the Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful apartment.
Canary Wharf is fantastic.
And his apartment has so he's right at the top, and he's got this beautiful panoramic view of the city. So you walk out to the balcony, and you can see the entire panoramic view of West London. Just beautiful.
Yeah.
So we're sitting and we're eating our dinner, and knock on the door, and then walks in Gregory Porter.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
I've also got to tell you, the same friend in his home has got this beautiful grand piano, this beautiful Yamaha grand piano.
This is unbelievable.
So Greg Porter walks in, and Greg kind of greets and sits down at the piano, and he just starts playing.
Oh my goodness!
Now I know who Greg Porter is. Right?
Yes, yes.
So I go Google Gaga.
You can't believe it.
But I'm also consistent with where I'm at. I know I can't go and ask him for like an autograph. I'm be like, can we take a selfie? It's like, can we do this thing? Is he? Yeah, he just comes in. He's got his hat. He's got his headscarf. He sits down and he starts playing. And the very first song he played, which is the one I'll tell you about, was "Water Under Bridges."
Water Under Bridges. Great Reporter, Water Under Bridges. Let's check it out.
Somebody told me, get over it. It's like water under bridges that have already burned. They say it gets better, it gets easier. The memories start to fade, and sad songs that always play, you start to hate. Do you remember memory so strong, it keeps me from moving on. If I could go back, I'd take our worst days, even our worst days are better than loneliness. Somebody told me, get over it. It's like water under bridges that have already burned. It's like water under bridges that have already burned. So strong, it keeps me from moving on. If I could go back, I'd take our worst days. Even our worst days are better than loneliness. Somebody told me, get over.
Great reporter. Water under the bridge. That's the choice of our guest today in Cruise 5, Vusi Thembekwayo. South African entrepreneur. He is a global keynote speaker and he is a venture capitalist. We're getting to know more about that soon. But finding a job after you've only done 1 year of varsity, that wasn't easy at all, was it?
I had an asset, and my asset was that I was well spoken, and my ability, I suppose, to speak got people to notice, and I was lucky. The truth is, I was lucky. A friend of mine who, a fellow at the time who was a friend of mine, was trying to organize a meeting with the director of a bank that I knew.
Okay.
Because I'd won the South African Public Speaking Championship.
Oh, you did?
And this specific bank had sponsored the competition.
Tell me more about the South African public speaking competition.
Well, so I won the, how do I put this? I'm a classically trained public speaker.
Okay.
So there are some people who speak.
Yes.
That's not what I do. I'm a classically trained public speaker.
How do you do that?
Well, it's like the difference between somebody who plays piano at church.
Okay.
And Beethoven.
Okay.
It's worlds apart. So I come from a classical stream where I was trained in public speaking for about 10 years. But 4 years into my training, I won the South African Championship, then the African Championship, then the World Championship.
Wow.
And then again, about 4 years later, I won the World Championship and set the 5-minute record in the 5-minute competition format of public speaking. My world record still stands. So my training, my classical training is in oratory. That's my training. So anyway, so I win the first South African.
So people knew you at this time. I mean.
Yeah, you know,
fairly.
I was not. The point is that I was not without network.
Yes.
And that's all you need, right? I mean,
exactly.
when you're young and you are looking for opportunities, that's all you need. You just need a network.
Someone who knows someone who knows someone.
This is it. So I knew the guy, and a friend needed to organize a meeting with him. So I went and helped them organize the meeting. And then that friend was organizing a meeting for the CEO of a company. And the CEO met me and liked me. And it was exactly the same time, you know, I wasn't able to go to school. I was looking for a job. And he said, come and join. Come be part of our sales. He said to me, he looked at me and he said, you're well spoken. Come and join my sales team. I thought, well, I'm not sure what sales is.
But I'll try it.
Yeah, I'll learn. It can't hurt. And that was my very first job.
So you never went back to school?
Oh, but I did.
So how did that work out? A job and
studying
school?
part-time. Studying part-time. I have to tell you, I place an incredible amount of value in education.
Yes.
So, you know, today I'm educated to my master's now. I've just made an application to pursue my PhD. I've been accepted to pursue my PhD at the foremost academic institution in the United Kingdom. So for me, education is critical. But I've pursued almost all my education in tandem with developing a career.
I mean, traditionally in Africa, most people would want to do education first and then they pursue their career after that.
Sure.
Didn't you find it a bit challenging to manage the two at once?
Sure, but I mean, you are a subject, you are the result of your circumstances and your decisions. So would I have preferred? I would have preferred to go to university.
Finish uni and then do, work.
I also wanted to go to the dorm parties. I wanted to be at the dormitory parties. I wanted to be at the Springfield bashes. I wanted to get lost in the university experience, to be in sports and to go through 2 months of holidays.
Yeah.
My life didn't work out that way. What I am grateful for is very early on in my life, it gave me a sense of discipline and gave me a sense of commitment. So, people look at me today and say, you're 32, you've achieved more than most people achieve at 80.
Exactly.
Sure, but also because I work 10 times more than the average person.
Yeah.
I started earlier, and I'm bright. So, you put together hard work, time in the game, and intellectual ability, and you're going to get good results.
Growing up as a young little Vusi, somewhere in Gauteng, what did you always want to become? And is that what it turned out to be?
No. Yeah, I mean, so first you have to understand the context of South Africa.
Yes.
I'm born in 1985. Apartheid ended in 1990.
Yes.
So I was born into the apartheid system.
Apartheid Africa, yeah.
When I was born, Nelson Mandela was in prison, right? Just to give you a sense.
Yes.
So I'm born into a life constructed for black people by white people.
Yes.
And what that life did quite specifically is it had a system, a social system that sought to keep the black majority repressed, uneducated, and unemployable. That's what the system of apartheid was. So you take 88% of the population in the country, which is black African, you give them bad quality of education, and if you do that, you can provide cheap labor to the factories which the white people own. That's what the system of apartheid was. Apartheid was not a system of anything more than economic domination. Right? So that's what I'm born into.
Okay.
So growing up, where I grew up, there weren't any role models and examples.
You didn't aspire to become anything at all?
Because there was nothing to aspire to be. I mean, if I aspired to be a professional when I grew up was a teacher.
Yeah.
Or a nurse.
That's the highest you could go, that you could think of.
Or a policeman. And then many years later, maybe a lawyer. But even then, you knew about a lawyer. You didn't know what an advocate was.
Yes.
If you wanted to, you maybe wanted to be a bookkeeper. You didn't know what a chartered accountant was. See, you maybe wanted to be a bank teller. You didn't know what an investment banker was. To get it. So, there was a clear and deliberate system that limited your horizons. You couldn't lift your eyes beyond it because around you there was no role modeling. It's something I take very personally today. Is make sure that I role model to young people.
Yes.
So that they know it's possible.
Exactly.
So growing up, I wanted to be all sorts of things. I wanted to be a doctor.
It was really just the next person you see, and you're like, that looks cool.
Yeah, we had a
I want to be like them.
We had a phenomenal family doctor. It was an Indian fellow. So I thought, I definitely want to do that. Yeah. and then one day, my sister was sick, and we took her to the doctor. She was vomiting. And then she went into the doctor's office, and I thought, I don't want to handle people's vomit. So they went the dream of being a doctor. I wanted to become a lawyer, and then I learned that lawyers get paid per hour, and that the rate was actually really, really small. I was like, no.
There's no way I'm getting that per hour.
I was like, nah.
I need something that gives me loads of money.
Yeah, and also then I had to go through like legal books this big.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
oh
no, it's a nightmare studying for law. I mean, it's
like, no,
too much work.
No, really, it's okay.
So deciding to get into what you eventually got into, that must have been quite daring, because I mean, it must have been something that you probably didn't even think you would do at all.
Yeah, my life is a function of coincidence and deliberateness. So the truth is, at the beginning of, Steve Jobs says, in life you can only connect the dots backwards.
Okay.
So when you look forward, as what seems like a random set of events, when you look backwards, actually it's logical.
It makes sense.
You go, oh yeah, that should have happened for this. My life kind of worked out the same way. So I didn't go, I want to be a venture capitalist.
Yes.
I didn't.
Yeah.
But I started my first business. I needed financial assistance, and there was nobody there to help me.
Yes.
So many years later, when I'd made money, I went yeah, that's something I should fix. Oh, it turns out it's called venture capital. I'll do that.
Whatever it's called. I mean,
Right.
this is what I want to do.
Exactly right. So I get into this business. I'm in sales, and I was selling this. This was a large IT company selling very complex digital solutions, very complex stuff. They were doing Internet of Things in 2003, 2004. So this is before people knew what the internet was.
Yes.
In truth.
Yes.
And we were doing connectivity of sensors, of devices and organizations to allow for streamlining of processes. 04, 05, you got to be daring to do this stuff.
Exactly.
So one day a fellow walked in, we were pitching something to him. My CEO was supposed to be in the meeting. The CEO never came to the meeting.
Yeah.
And I was asked to go and pitch to the guy. Went and pitched to him, the company never got the deal. But the guy I was pitching to was running a treasury function of one of the large industrial listed companies in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And he phoned me about 2 days later and said, let's have a coffee. And he offered me a job. And I went from selling IT solutions to becoming part of a complex financial business.
Wow. And
selling financial arrangements internally into the group.
A huge leap.
Massive leap.
Vusi Thembekwayo, my guest today in Cruise 5. What's our next song going to be?
It would have to be Amel Larue.
Amel Larue.
Get Up.
Get up. Get up. I mean, that should be a message to the viewer. Don't sit on your butt. Just get up and go. All right, Amel Larue.
6 a.m. getting out of bed again. I can't get back in. Sleep ain't gonna pay the rent. Day to day, got you working like a slave, taking credit for the work you gave, stealing your raise. But I know you're down. When you gon' get up, I see you down. When you gon' get up, I know that you're down. When you gon' get up, I see you down. When you gon' get up, people try to put the wool over your eyes. I don't know why they wanna profit from your demise. I don't know why they lie to cover up how weak they are inside. Oh, baby girl, don't you cry. Oh, you got your pride so high. I know you're down. When you gon' get up, I see you down. When you gon' get up, I know you're down. When you gon' get up, I see you down. That's right. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. I'm always trying to do something to change this up a little, but I keep it the same for y'all.
Venture capitalist.
Yes.
What is that? I mean, you starting off, you never knew that's what it was called. To you, it's just, okay, let me do this.
Maybe let me put it to you this way.
Yes.
And I'll explain it so that the viewer watching at home understands it. Every person that works earns an income a part of that income gets taken for their retirement. It's called a pension. And around the world, the largest investors are known as pension funds. They control trillions of dollars in capital. And what they do is they take people's money who are going to retire, and they invest it in a set of financial instruments for this thing called capital preservation. Because remember, every year there is inflation. So the cost of a can of baked beans today is different to the cost of a can of baked beans 10 years ago. So if you're taking your pension and putting it in your mattress, you're losing money, because it won't buy you the same value of stuff 10 years from now. So pension funds take money and invest it for you to preserve your wealth. We know that to be what is called classical investment environment. The difference is this thing called alternative investments.
Yes.
These are often unlisted equities typically. So this is, you have a large factory, or your family has owned a business for, I don't know, 40 years, and you have 2 factories that make water, and you want to build a 3rd factory, and you need some funding. The bank won't fund you, but there are a group of people who together have enough money to fund you, and they will put the money in.
Okay.
These are private individuals who provide you with equity finance. That's where the term private equity comes from.
Okay.
Now, private equity typically is for businesses that have been running for a long time with steady cash flows. The antithesis of private equity is businesses that have been running for a shorter period of time with erratic cash flows. The risk is higher. And developed all over the world was this concept of people who would take their capital to back the venture, a venture capitalist. So those are the 3 tiers. It's classical listing, classic investments. Everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
And then in the alternative space is private equity and venture capital. And venture capital, in essence, people like myself take our money and we take bets on entrepreneurs to build businesses and to create wealth.
So, are you employed or you're doing something of your own?
Today?
Yes.
No, I mean, I'm CEO of 2 separate businesses. The first is Iconoclast, which is our knowledge bureau. And we believe that knowledge is the single most important thing Africa needs today. The problem with Africa is that Africans don't know. So there is a massive information asymmetry. For instance, most of the people watching this would not have heard about alternative investments before. I know entrepreneurs who have been running businesses for 40 years. They don't know what weighted average cost of capital is. Yes. And so the problem with knowledge is when you don't know what you don't know. You don't do what you should do because you don't know. Right. So we have to tackle this knowledge asymmetry issue, and how we do it is by providing knowledge capital to the world. So our Iconoclast business does a lot of research, and we take that research and we publish it to inform people so that they know. We produced, for instance, an article on the decline of Nkumat before Nkumat declined.
Wow.
We foresaw it. 6 months ago, we called it. We called what was going to happen to Nkumat in Kenya. And as you know, about 4 months after we called it, the first issue started surfacing around Nkumat, and now, of course, the business has gone bankrupt. When we first started calling it, everybody said we were crazy, but we were running the data behind the scenes, so we knew what was happening.
We knew what was going on.
So anyway, I'm CEO of the Iconoclast business, and then, of course, I'm CEO of my venture capital fund, which is called My Growth Fund. We're a Pan-African youth-based fund. So we are domiciled in South Africa, licensed in Kenya, Nigeria. So we think about Africa as the 3 triangles, sort of connecting the dots. And we finance businesses that have a heavy focus on developing youth. Okay. So either youth as talent, youth as skill, youth as management, or even youth as part of the ownership structure of that business. Because, and I just want to make this final point, Africa has an interesting problem. In its 1.2 billion number of citizens, 62% of them are young people. Yes. But in other parts of the world, young people are in the productive economy. They work, they have jobs. Yes. Young people have energy, they have time, right? In Africa, that's not the case. Yeah. Typically, young people are unemployed. In my country, for instance, the unemployment rate is 40%. For young people between the ages of 16 and 35, the unemployment rate is north of 50%. Exactly. So half of our youth capacity isn't employed. Yes. The problem with young people unemployed is first they don't acquire skills, which means in future they become unemployable, which is a real problem for governments. Yeah. And the second problem, which is the more burning issue, is young people have energy, they have fervor. So if you don't make them productive, they find other things to do. They get into crime. Yes. They become social pariahs. So we focus as a fund on making sure that we drive youth inclusion into the mainstream economy. It's for us one of our term sheet mandates. We invest in your firm. We need a clear plan of how you're going to help develop young people in your firm. Absolutely.
Whose problem is it that young people are not taking advantage of the opportunities that are there, or that Africa is not making the most of this very productive age group?
No,
because it's ironic.
No, the question, with respect, your question is fallacious. It's not that young people aren't taking advantage of the opportunities. It's that old people are hogging the opportunities. See, the problem with Africa that we have.
I would argue that the opportunities, they won't be presented to them. I mean, you have to fight. You have to go and get them.
No, tell that to the young person growing up in Nigeria today with one of the most corrupt societies. What opportunities? Where does he go? What network? Just think about it. You live in an economy, look at Nigeria. You live in an economy that is predominantly based on a single commodity, oil. And all the oil extractors and exporters are businesses that are run by people in their 50s and 60s who are not in the habit of trying to transform those businesses for young people. So if you're a young person growing up in Nigeria, what can you hope to do? You can hope to maybe but take water from one end and sell it to another. That's what you can hope to do. But you can't hope to become part of a large industrial development complex in Nigeria. It's true in Nigeria. It's true in South Africa. You know what's happening in my country? Typically, older people who are politically connected are amassing huge unearned wealth. Young people who are coming up poorer without opportunities are not given the opportunity. So I take your point, but we have to be careful to stigmatize. Just give me a second. Yes. We have to be careful to stigmatize young people. I don't read the African problem as youth laziness. I read the African problem as old people who are stuck in old ways and who do not want to rethink and reconstruct our societies. That's the problem we have.
Do you see the old people, for example, giving the platform to young people willingly? Because they also want the privilege that they enjoy through what they do. So it's not something that they'll just give freely. I mean, if the young people want to get where the old people are, they have to fight for it. They have to...
I agree with you, but you know, you're right. Mm-hmm. But here's my point. I'm happy to fight for opportunities, but like a fighter, I must be told where the ring is and I must show up. Mm-hmm. If I don't even know there is a fight happening, how do I show up to the fight? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So if I'm a young person and I, let's imagine, want to supply water to a government department, but the government is cash gating and the money leaves the government department long before it buys the water, I can't be blamed as a young person for not maximizing the opportunity. I didn't even know the opportunity existed. So if there were Europe has a youth problem, but Europe's problem is youth maximizing opportunity. Africa's problem is youth being given opportunity. And the opportunities are not there at all. They're not there. The purveyors and owners of our economies, the purveyors and owners of African wealth continue to be the same people who do not want to share in the prosperity of the continent because their thinking is zero-sum game. Their thinking is, if there are 2 glasses of water on this table and I share mine with you, that only leaves me with 1. They're not thinking, how do we take the glasses on this table and multiply it?
But my question is, how will we break the vicious cycle? Because this will keep going on. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Everybody wants the best for themselves, and nobody's going to give an inch of their yard to somebody.
You know, in South Africa, we have this beautiful word. It's a Zulu word called Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. And well, we have Ubuntu here.
Yeah, and Ubuntu means...
It's the same philosophy.
Ubuntu means I am because you are, right? Now, the Europeans talk about I think, therefore I am. So for the Europeans, your ability to think translates into your identity. For the African, my community is my identity. This is it.
Yes.
We're a communal people.
Exactly.
So to answer your question, I have faith in the young people of this continent. You know, I was in Sweden, Norway, and Finland 2 weeks ago talking to global investors who are investing in our fund. And I said to them, give us your money, but understand you're investing in the future of the continent. Don't call me in 5 years' time and ask me for this money back. Call me in 20. I'm investing in the future of this continent. I have faith in the young people of this continent. But I know this, and this is the message to the older generations that are gatekeeping and locking opportunities to young people.
Yeah.
Follow the story of every single generation that has locked a youth population out of opportunities.
And see if they made it.
Every time, that generation will lose. Hosni Mubarak did it in Egypt. Young people overthrew him. Good luck. Jonathan did it in Nigeria. Yeah. Young people voted him out. Yeah? Jacob Zuma's doing it in South Africa. Young people are kicking him out. Every single leader who gatekeeps and locks opportunities for young people, the young people will take you out of the system, either constitutionally or in other means, but you will be out of the system.
You'll be kicked out. Not something that you really want to happen to you, but something that I really want to see happening is us watching the next song that you're going to choose. The third song, what is it going to be?
You know, there was a phenomenal Afro hip-hop group in South Africa called Squatter Camp.
Oh my God.
And these guys trailblazed. I remember the very first time I started traveling overseas,
Yes.
mid-2000s. I would like land in Perth and I'd be listening to these guys in my little,
Where
you know.
did they go?
I don't know. They kind of
Where
split
did
and
they go?
went in their different directions.
They were great.
But they had a song called Umoya.
Yes.
And for me, that's how I think about the generation of young people we have
what does
today.
the song say? Umoya.
Uzoz Umoya. It's like you'll feel. Umoya is air, but
Yes.
it translates to a force.
Okay.
So when I say Uzoz Umoya, it's like you're going to feel this force coming.
Uh-huh.
And so the song is talking about how there are forces that are shaping our societies and our communities, and whether you like it or not, you're going to feel it. And I kind of feel like that's exactly the message we need to be sending to the older generation.
And that's Squatter Camp for you. Umoya. Uzozo Umoya.
zikanunwabu wala achechi ndo zizokafuni kwebu ikote kotaye ngekoti kahlela umlomo yavuka njebovu mkhabuzo bona umdadavu kubhale ndoda kuphumelele kwasubhodla thenga ugoloko 24/7 siyawuchitha sithathele rap sibuyisele emuva ebantwini sithole lokishini nabantwana emapheshini.
Now he's a breath of fresh air in this game, so shit must change. Step back or move forward and get rearranged. You had your chance, I think it's about time we flip the page. What a camp, maniac, headliners on the world stage.
Praise the chef, watch your back go fail. Sous un nom sexuel, nous en soir.
It's my house, got that is played out very like Shabbat Mama. Singing Papa Chwala, Jovazana, Nonkozana. It's a perfect nice combination like drugs and sis, my Brindana. We pack a matata, Prophobius, better like Tautata. Men, please, nice girls, punchline and roll beats. Spoonie Mali, nice cars, nice house and nice chicks. Pupula Machita, from Starbucks to Emakasi. From here to the grave, representing hip hop and Zanji.
Check. Hotter than like cars, these parades, how you gon' stop they flows? Virginity war style, how you gon' stop it when we just push? MCs are United Nations, they call us George Bush. Here's little advice before you think you're smart and try and push. Hip hop is ours, don't doubt us, they'll allow us with powers, come scout us, we founders of new ways to make it feel right and so. Praise the chef, watch your back go fail. Sous un nom sexuel, nous en soir.
No competition for the squad, I'm rapper shala parts. It's team Separafin, so man is bellis punch him out.
Monkey see, monkey do, empathy, ain't for fun. Rappers, I got bitches on my nuts. Fuck that money and bitch shit, I let bitches run on this dick. Joking, just run me. I make chicks take 6 pills, I'm one about abortion, kid. I'm sick like 666. So when I rap, people like, how the fuck does it do, man? I got rap skills in a dumb fucking house. What I can't be, yeah, you better land. Pass to the strap, flip scripts like a rabbit. Lyrical veteran, don't trouble, man.
Shoot my jeans, sexual bill, get you in Dr. Moore. Squad of flabber, Yanyi wa maja uzu moya shaw. Yan mon and calling all this cockers, coolest boom, go mon.
Vusi Thembekwayo is our guest today in Cruise 5. He is from South Africa, but he is a global keynote speaker, a venture capitalist, and he's also an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you make many decisions. I'm curious to know if you have made some bad investment decisions in the past.
All the time. Yeah, the anomaly of leadership, and I wrote a beautiful piece actually, an article about this called, and it was an article on leadership.
Yes.
And it was called The Fallacy of Leadership. And it spoke about my experience being a leader and what the literature says what leadership is,
Yes.
and what leadership is in reality.
It's totally different,
Very
ain't it?
different. Literature says the leader knew what he was doing. Reality, he didn't.
You're just trying stuff out.
He was trying stuff out. There was a bit of luck, a bit of opportunity, a bit of good fortune.
The spark and
then stuff happened.
yeah.
Literature says the leader is strong as one man. In reality, he's scared.
Yeah.
He hopes he's doing the right
He's
thing.
terrified
He's
and
terrified he's getting it wrong. And he's scared of being lonely, right? The literature says
yes.
this leader made every decision,
Yeah.
and it was the perfect decision. Rubbish.
You're just
You know, the truth is, leaders make more incorrect decisions than they make correct decisions. The power of leadership is two things. The first is when a leader makes a decision and it's wrong, he doesn't emotionally hang on to it. He changes his mind.
okay.
He will make a different decision. So this thing called a pivot. But the second thing is, when leaders make the right decision, the quantum of good defeats the loss of the bad on the wrong decisions.
Okay.
So I'll give you a sense in my example.
Yes, please.
In our firm, on an average of, we call it a portfolio play. So on an
Yes.
average of 7 investments, we'll lose money in 5. So just to be clear,
Yes.
Five
But the
transactions.
two that you make money in.
well, not both. So 5, we're doing 7 transactions.
Yes.
5, I burned the money. It's
Yes.
gone.
Yeah.
Of the 2, 1, I break even. It'll return my money.
Yes.
Of the 1 where I make money, it'll pay for all the losses of the 5 and more. So what I've learned is not to get anxious about the 5 that we lose money on, but rather to care, to find the 1 where we're going to make the quantum leap in growth. So that's just to answer your question.
Yep.
Do I make bad decisions? All the time. Do I call it wrong? All the time. I'm very comfortable in my skin and in knowing that we're going to make poor decisions. We have a scientific process of making decisions, and sometimes the process doesn't work. Okay, well, so we don't get emotional. The minute we know, we cut the losses, we fix it, and we focus our energies on making good.
Talk to the young man who wants to make it in life but doesn't have the wherewithal to make it. They don't have the money, they don't know anybody. Where can they start from? How can you...
Fantastic question. You know, in our fund, we have a fund patron called Dr. Richard Maponya. If you
Yes.
come to South Africa, there's a beautiful mall in Soweto called Maponya Mall. It's owned by Dr. Richard. Richard's story is in the heart of apartheid, in the heat of the 50s and 60s,
Yes.
when black people weren't allowed economic enterprise, weren't allowed to own property. He was a black man who was building businesses and owning properties. In the heart of apartheid. It was illegal, but he did it. He built an empire. So when I started building our fund, I needed a black role model whose life was an example to what we're doing, and Richard Maponya was a perfect match for us. But Richard Maponya has a philosophy, and the philosophy is correct. He says, Africa doesn't need an entrepreneurship revolution. We need a skills revolution.
Okay.
You see, because
Well, we don't have the
entrepreneurship-
skills?
Well, this is the point. Entrepreneurship is born of skills.
Yes.
So if you want to start a business, being a speaker, you need to have the skill of public speaking.
Yes.
You want to start a business, being a mechanic, you need the skill and you need the ability.
Yes.
So what I would say to the young person who is without opportunity is to find a place where you can access the opportunity to acquire a skill.
Place yourself in the right place.
This is it. Whether it's volunteering to work at a mechanics workshop for 3 months just so you can learn how to fix cars, how to change a battery, and how to do all these things, do that, because that's what will take you really, really far.
4th song.
I suppose as a tribute to my mother,
Yes.
it would be Boys to Men, a song for Mama.
You must be very attached to your mother.
Yeah. Mom's my hero. Mom's my rock. Mom is a rock star. My mom is my best friend, my biggest supporter, and my most accurate critic.
Is she competing with someone for that spot in your life in
No.
terms of a lady?
No. This is my mom.
Nobody can replace Mama.
No.
So this song is for Mama, and that's Boys to Men.
job. Here we go. You taught me everything and everything you've given me. I always keep it inside. 'Cause you're the driving force in my life. Hey, there isn't anything or anyone that I could be, and it just wouldn't be right to say if I didn't have you by my side. Oh yes, oh yes. You were there for me, love and care for me. And skies were gray. Whenever I was down, you were always there to comfort me. No one else can be what you have been to me. You will always be, you will always be the girl in my life.
Help us out, if you know it. Sing it.
Mama, you know I love you. You know I love you, Mama. Mama, you're the queen of my heart. Your love is like tears from the stars. Mama, I just want you to know. Loving you is like food to my soul. Never gonna go one day without you, Mama. Fill me up just thinking about you, Mama. I'll never go.
Everybody get your hands in the sky like this. Here we go. And wave those hands. From side to side like this if you feel it.
Vusi Thembekwayo, I've got a series of questions that I want to ask you just to know what you've been about, what you've been doing.
Sure.
You can only answer yes or no.
Yes, okay.
Do you want to play this game with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, first I would like you to just tell me your full name.
Vusi Thembekwayo.
Do you have any tattoos?
Yes.
Do you have any piercings?
No.
Do you have children?
Yes.
Have you ever shot a gun?
Yes.
Have you ever cried over someone?
Oh dear. Yes.
All righty, there we go. Have you fallen in love before?
Yes.
Have you killed a chicken before?
Yes.
Have you gotten into a fight before?
Oh yes.
Have you gotten any surgeries?
Yes.
Have you ever been hospitalized?
Yes.
Have you donated blood?
Yes.
Have you ever smoked weed?
Next.
Next is, would you smoke weed?
Next after that.
Have you ever drunk alcohol?
Yes.
Have you ever broken someone's heart?
Yes.
Have you had a crush on someone?
Yes.
And there we end it. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very
Vusi.
much for having me. It's been an
What
absolute
would be
pleasure.
your last song?
Oh wow, we've kind of gone on a sojourn. So there's one of my favorite movies in the world is Forrest Gump.
Yes.
Run, Forrest,
Run, Forrest, run!
And you know, one of the theme songs for that movie is by Buffalo Springfield.
Yes.
And it's called For What It's Worth.
Yes.
And I love this song. The opening line is, "There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear." And the reason I love that song is because that's the world I live in. I work with entrepreneurs. They come and pitch stuff, and we know there's something happening. It's just not clear what it is. So that's the last song.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. I think it's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and a carrying signs, mostly say hooray for our side. It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.